What is up, YouTube? Comic 50 books of my collection. I've seen a lot of people putting their books up, and I just had to follow suit. I think Alex the Comic Hoarder was the one that started all this goodness, so shout out to Alex the Comic Hoarder. But in picking out the top 50 books in your collection, it's kind of like picking which one is your favorite kid. How do you do it, right? Do you go all graded? Do you do it based on value? Do you do it all on raw? How do you do it? So these books are in no certain order. I'm just going to show them as I get to them in the stack, but they all together represent my top 50. Some of them are a lot of it's based on value, just some of it's sentimental value, as you can see. So hopefully you will enjoy. So let's start with the book that started it all, and that is Amazing Spider-Man 236. This is the first comic book, not the original copy, unfortunately, but the first comic book that I can remember looking at way back in 1983, I believe. And yeah, so it started my interest in the hobby. Then we've got Thor 337. I bought this copy in a small comic shop here in Mississippi. Classic covers, been homage several different times. Certainly my favorite version of Thor, and that's the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill. And talking about not being worth that much, we've got Magnus the Robot Fighter #5, which is a flip book to Rye #1, the first appearance of Rye. And if you'll notice, this right here is signed by Jim Shooter. As you know, I am a Valiant collector, and Rye, being one of my favorite characters in the Valiant universe, got Shooter to sign it both on this side and the flip side. Jim Shooter, obviously the architect for Valiant. It was great meeting him not too long ago and getting him to sign that book, as I did many other days. Also, Avengers Annual 10. Not quite the cover that you're used to. This is the Toy Biz version. As you might see, this says not for resale. So this is Avengers Annual 10 with the Terry Dodson cover. And I got it signed by Jim Shooter and Michael Golden. And Lord willing, I'm going to be getting Chris Claremont to sign it as well. Just felt like this was a lot better cover to get signed than the original, which I have copies of as well. Sticking with this theme, it seems, we got Magnus the Robot Fighter #12. This is where they introduced Turok into the Valiant continuity. And it also is signed by Jim Shooter. Back in the day when Wizard was a big thing, this was one of the big books that you wanted to have in your collection, certainly on many of the top 10 list. Some books that you won't see anywhere else are scattered throughout this top 50 rendition. This right here is a sketch cover of All-Star Batman #1, but that's not what makes it special. If you'll see, there is a sketch on here. This is done by my fourth son. I have so many. I just call them by numbers. But anyway, this is my fourth child. And so had to be in one of my top 50 books in my collection. Also, member of the comic book community did this one for me. And if you probably will recognize this as an homage to special size or king size Hulk #1. And he did this on a Hulk issue 50 sketch cover. And this is of me being the big green, lack of hair and everything. So he did this like a digitized version of this to enter one of my contests. And I said, man, I've got to have that on a sketch cover. So he sent that to me. So pretty dope of him. Also, Hulk 181 is one of my favorite covers to get various versions of, and of course, not just the English version. This is the British version of Hulk 181. And if you're familiar with the Hulk 181 picture of Hulk, which you will be by the end of this video if you're not already, you'll notice that this Hulk has a different face. Very typical for some of the foreign editions to have slight variations than their English counterparts. And this is no exception to that. This is La Masa number 4. This is the Spanish version of Hulk 181. And as you can see, it was a total redrawing of the original costume. Wolverine in shorts and in white. Wendigo got bathed in mud or something. I bought this one. It came all the way from Spain to me. So some of my books are a reason why they're in the top 50 is because, again, sentimental reasons, but also the story behind them is as interesting to me as anything else. This one is Knights of Old Republic, number 9. This is the first appearance of Revan. Recently upgraded my copy of this. Then we've got this book, Revolution number 1. And this was a blank sketch cover, fully drawn by Livo Mandeli. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name. Every time I try to say it, I butcher it. But he did Killlock as well as other Transformers work for IDW. And of course, if you're a child of the 80s, you recognize this book right here. And this song is going off in your head right now, isn't it? Because this is the scene where Rodimus opens up the matrix of leadership. Hot Rod becomes Rodimus Prime. Then we have TMNT number 3. Certainly a big book by itself. Got a good deal on it before things went astronomical in 2021. But this is special because it's signed on the inside, as they used to do back in the day, by Kevin Eastman, but also Peter Laird. Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman's signatures together are certainly older because they haven't been signing together for quite some time. So definitely this is one for the record books. I would get it graded, but then I couldn't look at that signature anytime I want to. Now, this is Bloodshot Reborn number 1, the sketch cover. The sketch cover, though, is done by Don Perlin. Don Perlin, known for being the co-creator of Werewolf by Night, Bloodshot, among others. Certainly, especially in the 80s and 90s, was a fixture around the comic book world. And he done this sketch. And so being one of the creators of Bloodshot, I thought it would be a great addition. I didn't get this originally done myself. I found it on eBay for a good price and snatched it up. Then I got Batman Who Laughs, number 1, signed by Scott Snyder. And he does that a lot with the Batman Who Laughs signatures I've seen. So I got him to sign this in a couple of years ago. I was very new or back into the comic book collecting game, and certainly CGC was not a thing back when I collected before. I didn't know anything about pressing. I didn't know anything about cleaning your books or anything like that. I just submitted this to CGC, and lo and behold, I got lucky with a 9/8 white pages. So not only did I put this in my top 50 for the Scott Snyder signature, for the Batman Who Laughs, and the 9/8, but just for the fact that I got lucky and got a 9/8 from CGC without the pressing such. Then I got a Batman Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles sketch done by Freddie Williams. Freddie Williams, who did the Batman and TMNT crossover for IDW DC, did this sketch cover of Michelangelo. This is also the infamous book. If you recall watching my video, my CGC rants, one of the many, you will remember seeing this book as the one that had the hair. And of course, it went to CGC and they removed the hair, and there you go. Picked up this right here, Joker number 1 of that one shot. This is a sketch cover that I got done by Tyler Kirkham, and it came back a 9/8, so that was great. So 9/8. This is Red Hood, the New 52 style Red Hood, which I like better. Whooping the Joker, kind of taking some Joker getting some payback for what he did to Jason Todd all those years ago. Then I got Detective Comics 880, classic cover, Jock goodness, Joker goodness, all right there. Unfortunately, you got the 9/6, but the difference between a 9/6 and a 9/8 sometimes is a couple $100. But no, seriously, the difference is just a tick. The bought it from said that I could probably press it and get it out. I don't know if it is that easy or not. I don't plan on getting rid of it. I got a good enough price on it, especially now that prices have skyrocketed. I'm perfectly okay with a 9.6, which is more than a near mint of Joker goodness right there. Then we got Batman 635. This is the first appearance of the Red Hood as becomes Jason Todd. Now, being a Batman collector, Jason Todd collector, this is a perfect fit, right? The other reason why I put this one made the cut was because that I bought this copy raw. I did get it pressed, but I bought it raw, got a really good deal in Memphis on this one, and sent it off to the presser, and it came back a 9.8. So I was really happy about that. When you can score some like that on a big book like that, raw, you definitely want to remember that. Then we got Batman 251, classic Neil Adams goodness on the Joker. This is where Joker became reimagined as the criminal we all know, love, hate, / all that kind of good stuff of today. I bought this book at Louisville Comic Con a couple of years ago, straight from the collector, went straight over to Neil Adams' table and got him to sign the book. So it came back as a 6.0. Perfectly happy with it the way it is. A book that needs no introductions, X-Men #1, had to make the cut somewhere. First appearance of all those people on the cover, and then including Professor X. Definitely being an X-Men collector, you got to have this book in there somewhere if you got it, because this book has certainly popped. You'll notice this is a 0.5. It is an original comic. I bought a facsimile cover to go over the coverless copy and then got it graded. I mean, it didn't grade or anything. It just encapsulated it more than anything else. So, because at this point, especially a 0.5 is probably all that I'll ever get on that particular book, just because prices have become so astronomical. Now we've got Bloodshot Rising Spirit #1. Now I have to be as careful with this, or more careful than I do with any kind of slab. And the reason why is because this is a glass cover. This is the first ever glass cover. As you can see right there, that glass on top of the cover, and the image is on the glass. And this is the first ever done in comicdom. And this was done by, of course, Valiant Comics. And being a Bloodshot fan, it became a no-brainer. Then we got Uncanny X-Men 21 from Volume 5. This is the John Tyler Christopher negative space variant of Rogue. My favorite of the negative space variants is this one right here. I bought it raw, found it as a good deal on eBay, got it pressed by CBCS. Took long enough, but it did come back as a 9.8, and just really dig that cover. I like the negative space covers overall, but especially that one goes really, really good. Keeping with the colors, how about this one right here? TMNT #1 annual from IDW. Sketch cover. Oh, that's right. It's got something different on it. This is done by Squatchy. So Squatchy done this one, and I saw it. I had to pick it up. And this is, of course, of The Last Ronin. He also graded it a 10 as Minty Minty. Did the little turtle logo up there at the top. And then also did the back. An homage there to Turtles #1. Cool slab, cool artist in the community. If you're not familiar with Squatchy, certainly check him out. But that is one of my top 50 books. Keeping with the Turtles 1, how about we just put a Turtles 1 out here? TMNT #1, third print, but it is a 9.6, off-white to white pages. Now, being a turtle collector and a TMNT #1, no-brainer. But again, it's more the story, because this one I bought on a YouTube auction that took an hour and a half. You heard me right. I didn't stutter. It was an hour and a half. And it took that long to finally get nailed down. I bought it raw with a whole bunch of other TMNT books and sent it to the presser. Got this back as a 9.6. So way happy, especially for what I paid for it. Definitely one that's not going anywhere. And keeping with a little of the green, how about a classic X-Men number 50? This is the first issue that the X-Men logo that we all know and love came out, done by Jim Steranko, according to Jim Steranko, and is signed by Jim Steranko. So Jim Steranko, if you've never got a chance to meet him, hopefully you will. Full of stories, willing to talk for hours, and got him to sign that classic cover. And he always signs it in the same spot. He always signs it with green, and so it goes well. Only came back as a 4.0. The staples are a little bit rusty. You might see a little bit of water up there. I bought this from a Comic-Con knowing that Steranko was going to be near me a couple of months later, so had to pick it up, and definitely glad I got that one. Now this one, classic cover with Captain America Annual number 8, fight between Wolverine and Captain America. But this one's special because it's got John Beatty, Mike Zeck, and Joe Rubenstein's signatures all on the cover. And I got this done from them at Louisville Comic-Con, GalaxyCon a few years ago. And got them all, just went from table to table and got them all to sign that for me. Not a classic cover, but certainly one day will be. This is 9/8 Iron Fist number 1, the Del Auto version. Now, a lot of times I like the black and white sketch versions, but I felt like the black and white in this particular case did not do this any justice. You've got Iron Fist worn out from a fight, raining in the background, and you can check out his hands glowing and the blood dripping from him, but his hands glowing. Of course, you couldn't pick that up on a black and white. So picked this up on an Instagram auction a couple years ago. It was already graded, and just a super dope cover. Definitely a book that has picked up steam. And that is Tomb of Dracula, number 10. Bought this copy raw. CGC, to be honest, hurt my feelings on this one. I got graded pretty harshly for this little nick up here being the main thing. But nevertheless, it's I wasn't really aiming for a grade. I don't necessarily collect grades. I collect comics. But this is a 3.5 creamed off white pages. First appearance of Blade. So glad to have that one in the PC. Then we've got X-Men 101 classic cover. The most action in this book is on the cover, but you'll have to read it to understand that. But this is where Phoenix is introduced. Now, this is only a 4.0. You do notice that it is a yellow label because it is signed by the man, the legend, Chris. Few Pence comics that I have in my collection. Don't have that many, but to have this one, of course, I have an English version and French Canadian, several other versions of this book, but because this one's signed by Claremont and one of the few British Pence editions, classic X-Men cover, this is the one that made the cut. Now, this is Batman 50. From the current Batman run. This was a blank sketch cover. I bought it already done from an Instagram seller. Not sure where he had gotten it from, but this thing is awesome. This is done by Nick Justice. He did an homage to Batman 181, first appearance of Poison Ivy, but he did it with the animated figures. So you can see Batman, Poison Ivy, and Robin as they needed. To top it all off, I mean, he did a great enough job with that. But to top it all off, the man, the myth, the legend, Kevin Conroy signed that, who was the voice of Batman, Lauren Lester for Robin, and then, of course, Diane Pershing for Poison Ivy. So you have a 4-time signed book. Awesome homage. Killer original art. I just lucked up and scooped it up before somebody else did. Then we've got all new Captain America #1. Again, I guess this is a big book now that Sam Wilson's Captain America in the MCU, but the reason why it's special to me is that, as you can see, that was a blank sketch cover, and Alan Bellman did that sketch of Captain America with Hitler lurking in the background. And he did that for me in November of 2019. He died in February of 2020, so maybe the last convention he went to, and certainly one of the last. And I was glad I got to meet him, got plenty of time to talk to him and pick up that sketch from a legend. Alan Bellman worked with Stan Lee and the crew over at Timely Comics, which would eventually become Marvel Comics. Then we've got Web of Spider-Man #32, classic story, Kraven's Last Hunt, classic covers, been homaged plenty of times. But to make this one even more special, I got this signed personally by Mike Zeck, Bob McLeod, and J.M. DeMatteis at Louisville Comic Con. And so 3-time signed, classic cover, and it is a Mark Jewelers. So I think this might be my only Mark Jewelers that I have signed, but this is certainly one of my few Mark Jewelers that I have in my collection. So pretty cool that I ended up getting it signed because I didn't even know it. I bought it off eBay and took it straight to GalaxyCon and do that. So again, one of those covers that you go, okay, great. Foil cover, kid of the 90s, of course. I got this one signed by Peter David. Okay, great, whatever. Came back in 96 without pressing it or anything. But the reason why, and this is not the original copy, but the reason why this one made the cut was because I was certainly a Hulk fan, still am a Hulk fan. Peter David was one of the main authors, the main author of the Hulk that I knew and grew up with, aside from obviously the TV version of Hulk. But yeah, when I bought the original copy of this, it was in a mall comic book store, and I dropped it from the second story all the way down to the first story. And that's what really stands out to me about that comic was I was so mad at myself because it did dent it up. And of course, I got rid of those comics years ago, and that is a new copy, but the story still sticks with me. Then I've got Iron Fist #14, first appearance of Sabretooth, signed by the man, Chris Claremont, 6'5", but white pages. So all those things listed make this a cool enough book, but the fact that I got this off eBay, the whole set of Iron Fist 1 through 15, so the whole set I got for less than $200. So if you're doing your math correctly, I got all of this for only $18 and some change, not counting what it cost me to get it signed and to get it graded and, you know, all pressed and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so really pleased to have it. One of my favorite covers. Don't think it's ever homaged enough, but I don't really want to say that out too loud because they've been doing a lot of homages lately. My luck, they'll start everything homaging, and I want to pick them all up. Then we've got some giant size X-Men #1. This is my, I think it's my second copy. I've owned 3. But only on this one now. Picked this up off of Instagram last year. Happened to be in the Instagram live sale. Snagged it as soon as they put it up. As soon as I got it, I knew this was a CGC 3.5. It was already signed by Herb Trimpe, who, if you know, was an artist of Hulk for a long time in the early days. And, of course, the first artist for Wolverine. And it was a 3.5 CGC, yellow label. But I saw that it had a lot of work to do that you could get a grade bump. So I was willing to go from CGC to the new CBCS cases because I did not want CGC fooling with my pressing. So I sent it to my presser, went from a 3.5 to a 4.5. And of course they authenticated or verified the signature as authentic. And yeah, super happy. Definitely one of the grails of any X-Men collector. And this thing has gone up 3 times what I paid for it just a year ago. Let's talk about some Batman. We got Batman number 8, Golden Age goodness, Infinity cover right here. Let me show this up a little closer so you can see, looking at a magazine, looking at a magazine, looking at a magazine, right? So this is Batman number 8. As you know, I have quite a few Batman. But the reason why this one made the cut as much as anything else, because I have some more Golden Age Batman who probably are in better shape if you're going by value. But the reason why this one made it was because originally this went up for sale on a YouTube auction, and I did not win the bid. Somebody outbid me. So lo and behold, a few months later, I'm going to a con, and I noticed this book is up for sale. And I asked the guy, what do you want for this book? He told me. I bought it. I promptly took a picture of it and sent it to the guy who was originally trying to sell one. And I said, man, every time I've seen this book, I'm looking for this book because I've seen it and I didn't win it. He said, dude, that's my copy. I said, no way. So I ended up buying this inadvertently, graded. Of course, it was raw when he was originally selling it. But inadvertently, I bought it graded from the guy who had bought it from him raw. So it kind of worked out. The book ended up falling into my hands. It must have been meant to be. It's only a 1.5, but it's Golden Age Batman, folks. What can you say? What can you say? Okay. So I've got a bunch of copies of this. I actually got a copy of the glossy version, which is the more rare of the 2 versions. There's a matte and a glossy. And I've got the glossy version signed by Jim Shooter. Plan on getting Bob Layton to sign it at some point as well. But I got this one just because this was the graded version I had, and it's easier to show graded books. But Rye number 0, this is the first full appearance of Bloodshot Origin and first appearance of the new Rye. 2 of my favorite cover characters in the Valiant universe. Awesome cover. And if you didn't know, this was lifted from a Mike Zeck Punisher, by the way. But anyhow, another story for another day. Rye number 0 kind of skyrocketed for a little bit, and then when the movie, kind of didn't pan out, it went back down. But I've got several copies of both the matte and the glossy version. And then, of course, we got Archer and Armstrong number 0. And this is Archer and Armstrong 0 by itself is not a big book. Now, this is the gold edition of that, so it is a little bit more pricey, but it is signed. And it's who it's signed by that makes a difference. Bob Layton, of course, is a big signature, but the biggest one is Barry Windsor Smith, who did the art for the early Archer and Armstrong, a lot of the early Valiant. If you know, I'm a Barry Windsor Smith fan. And the fact that I picked this up raw, got it pressed and graded, and they authenticated the signatures, it's very hard to get a Barry Windsor Smith signature. And so I was glad to have that as a part of the collection. Then we've got New Mutants number 87. This is a newsstand copy, 9/4 white pages, and it is signed 3 different times. We've got Fabian Nicieza, Louise Simonson, and Rob Liefeld all signed this way back in 2016. So Cable, one of my favorite X-Men, newsstand. I've got the whole set of New Mutants, and then it's signed 3 different ways. How can you go wrong? And, of course, this book has been homaged a bunch of different times as well. A book that has certainly been going up as of late, and that is Werewolf by Night 32. This is the first appearance of Moon Knight. Bought this comic book raw. Ironically enough, a seller who was used to do a lot of sales on YouTube had posted it up, and I said, man, if you ever go to get rid of it, let me know. He direct messaged me and said, dude, are you serious? I said, yeah, man, I'm looking for a copy, whatever. So he cut me a deal as it raw. I didn't know how it would come back, but I got it pressed, came back as a 6.0. If you were watching my CGC rant. Yeah, I've already mentioned that, right? Because there's several of them. But this is the one with the Tomb of Dracula that the labels were switched. The Tomb of Dracula label was in this one and vice versa. Of course, I sent it back. CGC corrected it, but yeah. So I was hoping for a 6.5, crossing my fingers on a 6.5, but certainly pleased with this 6.0. Again, like many of the comic books in all of our collections, this one has certainly skyrocketed in value over the last year. Another book that needs no introduction, that's Hulk #1. Like this, collect the homages of it, and was contemplating getting the first 6 appearances, first 6 issues of Hulk. And in collecting X-Men, I started at the bottom and kind of worked my way up. X-Men 1 was the next to the last book I bought in the collection. So when this one came up, it was for sale on Instagram, and I gave a super lowball offer. I did not in any way expect for them to say, are you on crack? I mean, what are you thinking? But they said, if you go $100 more, I'll take it. And I was like, holy smokes. And it's like, well, I really wasn't expecting you to take it. Okay. And so I bought it. And if you notice, this is a 0.5. And the reason being is this is a facsimile cover, like the X-Men 1. I don't have that many coverless comics. It has to definitely be a big book. But these, like the X-Men 1 and the Hulk 1 in this case, is definitely huge books, even without the covers. I've had people tell me get the with the cover or without the cover. I don't know, but this one was already slabbed when I got it. So definitely glad to have that in the collection, and certainly one of the first appearances of a major Marvel character that is super pricey, especially nowadays. So this is Conan #1, and the reason why this made the cut was because I didn't want the Varangian Vigilante to come after me for not putting a Conan in my top 50. Now, seriously, there's a lot of reasons why this one is. One, it's signed by Roy Thomas. So I sent this off to CGC for the Roy Thomas signing. It's got an awesome date stamp. I told you I was a Barry Windsor Smith fan, and this is, of course, is Barry Windsor Smith goodness right here. It was already slabbed when I bought it, and unfortunately, it got dinged and went down a whole grade when I sent it to CGC, even after the presser did his magic. And, you know, it's just one of those things. It's got a cool date stamp, Barry Windsor Smith goodness, signed by Roy Thomas. I'm perfectly happy with the 5.5. We'd all love a 9.8, right? In that same bunch, though, sometimes you give, sometimes you get. And this is Marvel Premiere Iron Fist, or this Marvel Premiere 15, first appearance of Iron Fist, signed by Roy Thomas. And this was a PGX, for everybody who hates on PGX. This was a 7.0 in PGX. And so had it pressed and came back as an 8.0. So in that same batch, got a grade bump on everything except for that Conan, so I was perfectly happy with that. Glad I got an 8.0. I originally bought this raw, and there you go. First appearance of Iron Fist. Then we got X-Men 95. This is the, as CGC puts it, death of Thunderbird, but he actually is one of the few X-Men that has stayed dead. This is the second or third appearance, rather, of the new team, and it's 8.5 white pager. I bought this book raw from a comic shop on my way to the Memphis Comic Expo. Did not know anything about grading, pressing, whatever. I just got Chris Claremont to sign it and said, hey, here's CGC, take my money. And it came back as an 8.5 white pager. And I was like, whoa. And I could see where if I was so inclined to do so, I could get this thing pressed, probably get a 9.0 or even a 9.2, which would be great in this book, especially with Chris Claremont signing it. But, you know, it's encapsulated. It's good for me, you know. And we're winding this down, folks. I appreciate everybody for watching this video, and I'm assuming that everybody is going to be giving it that old thumbs up And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Of course, this one had to. I showed you the foreigns as some of my other top 50. But Incredible Hulk 181, as you can see, this has the green border up here, meaning that something's missing. And as you guessed it, it's the Marvel value stamp. And so I bought this book already graded at a 5.0 with some of the other ones you're fixing to see in just a minute. And got it pressed and sent to CGC for the Roy Thomas signing. Roy Thomas was the editor at this time. So I sent it in with those other books you saw and got him to sign that right there and got a grade bump. Thought even though I would rather have a complete book, obviously, I thought with the green and yellow with Wolverine and Hulk really fit really well. And certainly one to keep in the collection. One of the other of the 3 books that I got, it was already graded when I bought it off of eBay. The books didn't get damaged, but the cases got broken. The seller was nice enough to refund as much as what it would cost to get them graded. So with the way that they do values and such with CGC, which is another topic for another day, I was able to essentially get the Roy Thomas signature for free and get these regraded. This came back as a 7.0. Somehow it mysteriously grew pages back because originally it was trimmed. CGC didn't say that this time, but I digress. That's another video, another day. Certainly feel free to look it up on my channel. But this is 7.0. Roy Thomas signed it right here, right where I asked him to. And of the foreigns, I showed you the ones that made the cut are some of the hardest ones to find, and this is no exception. Typically with my foreigns, I don't veer too far off the beaten path. I like the at least the spirit of the original cover with Wolverine, Wendigo, and Hulk to be in there. Unfortunately, this one did not, but there's a story behind that. This was released at the same time. A lot of times foreigns are not released at the same time, the English versions, but this was back in November of 1974. And that Marvel did not get them the cover in time. So they had to go, this is one of the splash pages in the book, and they had to use that for the deal. And it's a 4.0. There's not that many on the census. 4.0 French Canadian edition. This is that Incredible Hulk number 40. How'd you like my French? Look, guys, I made a D in French in high school, so it cut me some slack, right? But this is one of my foreigns, Hulk 181, and definitely, as you will be able to tell, I did not save the best for last, but I hope you continue to watch the video. I just did them as they were piled up. But this is Hulk 180. This was the third one in that set that I mentioned. I bought previously, already graded, and got it cracked, pressed, and it came back as a 5.0. It was a 4.5. So again, this is the story behind the books is to me as much as important as the books itself, value, etc. This is Roy Thomas signed right here. Got him to sign it in green for Hulk, and he was accommodating on the colors. But I didn't get him to sign it over here. So anyway, classic cover. Certainly a sign that a rising tide lifts all ships, because a lot of people have been going to Hulk 180 since 181 has gotten out of price range of many people. Then we've got Foom number 10. Foom number 10, certainly an oddity among this collection. This is a previews of sort, Foom was back in the day. This is the first appearance of the new X-Men team. This predates by several months Giant Size X-Men number 1. And it has the whole team, as you can see, drawn by Dave Cockrum on the cover there. And in the inside, and they talk about the characters, etc., etc. So this is actually the first appearance of many of the characters on the cover. And it's a 4 or 5, but it's white pager. And this is the other interesting part about it. So when I bought it, it had because this was mailed to the original person who was in Hawaii, but then it also has a forwarding address because obviously they had moved. So that's pretty neat. And the fact that it is made out to M. Richardson, which my son's name is M. Richardson. Well, not M, but it starts with M. And I thought all of that was really fun and decided to pick up this copy as opposed to some other ones that were higher graded. But I liked all the story that went along with it. And last but certainly not least, the first appearance of Wolverine. Yes, that's not Hulk 180 or 181. This is Foom 2, folks. You know. If you know, you know. This is a classic Steranko cover. If I get a chance to get Jim Steranko to sign it, plan on getting him to sign it maybe somewhere right here, maybe in purple or green. Leave me a comment down below if you have a preference. But unfortunately, this is a green one because they have crossword puzzles and stuff like that in these, and so somebody had colored it in or whatever, and it tells you that right here on the label, something's filled out. But a young man sent in a idea for a character called the Wolverine who had regenerative healing powers. And then it was a little time later that they ended up coming up with a character called the Wolverine that had regenerative healing powers. And so I've heard that the young man still says, well, he's not young anymore, but says that they stole the idea from him. I don't know if they did or didn't, but I always like to add to the fun and talking about the first appearance of Wolverine, which many people say, well, some say it's 180 and some say it's 181. What do you say? I say Foom 2. So it's a fun book to have. Great Jim Steranko cover, keeping with the fact that Wolverine and Hulk seem to be immortally linked in some way or another. Hulk's on this cover, first appearance of Wolverine on the inside. Great Steranko cover, and just a great story altogether. So with that, that is my top 50, folks. What do you think? Did I have a lot of the same ones that you had? No, not the sketch covers, but with all the other ones? Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think of these books in my collection? And for those of you who are tempted to do a top 50 books in your collection, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and put it out there, folks, and let us all enjoy and live vicariously through your collections as well. I appreciate everybody for watching this today. Go ahead and smash that like button and the subscribe button and bell notification if you haven't already, because I'm dropping videos all the time on this channel. So till next time, folks, keep reading, keep collecting. Thanks. Adios.